and a regular cadence, a regular cycle to do revenue management, and that you'll build some intuition and skills. Now, this is just the first lesson. My best advice is that if you do revenue management, maybe we could all do it together at a certain time every day. I prefer to do it in the morning, and I think Gunny, Risky, me, and Rizal, we're all sort of morning people anyways. So if I can, I would say maybe 10 o'clock every morning, we do the next 5 revenue management cycles together, and that way everybody sees and can compare notes. That allows for a faster cultural distillation. Can we agree to meet 10 o'clock tomorrow at least, and then we'll begin this again, okay?
Okay.
So we'll see what the practice is. All right, fantastic, that's great. So the very first thing with revenue management is you need a calendar. So the first thing you want to do is you start with your PRM, because the PRM is the place where you're going to record all the different adjustments that you make to the cards. Now, why is this important? Risky, why is it important to record all the adjustments that we make?
Yeah, there's evidence.
Yes, there's evidence. Later on, when you look at a calendar that's full, and the owner asks you, hey, why did I sell in August for cheap, right? You can go back and you can show them what the calendar looked like. Like what we're seeing right now in a lot of places across all of Squad 1 is that the last week of August is empty. Starting from the 26th today, it's all empty.
Same.
Right, it's empty everywhere. And so if you then, let's say, don't record your evidence, and the owner comes back to you later and said, why did you sell August dates for half price? Well, Mr. Owner, did you know that your last week of August was empty for 3 weeks before the time to expire? If I didn't sell it, then you would have gotten nothing. You didn't know that at all. Well, let me show you what happened. Now, if it's already September 5th and you look at a calendar and you sold the dates, it's impossible to essentially prove what the calendar looked like back on August 26th. So that's why we record it, and that part is important. Okay, so let's go into selecting this. Once you have your Trello board, then you just set up a calendar. Now, I've already set up my cards, and so all these things are already there. But let's take a look at some of the cards I want to work with today. So there's quite a lot in here. Set a cadence for these revenue management things. Check on it at least once a week so that you can determine what the pricing is. Now, I'll go into more detail now. So let's say, for example, I pick up a card. So let's pick up my first card, Village Chahaya. It's at the top of the stack. So once I look at Village Chahaya, I go over here, and the very first thing I want to look at is I want to look at the occupancy. I want to look into the future and see how many empty dates there are. So I just simply go to Toki, and I type in, after it finishes loading, which will take a while because I'm doing a video conference.
Danny is recording.
He is recording, but still it's kind of slow. Okay, so you type in Chahaya. Okay, so Chahaya is actually looking pretty good for the moment. There are no empty dates before, and there are very few empty dates ahead. Unfortunately, one of our competitors, Unique Bali, is getting some of those dates over in the next week. So then we simply scroll ahead and we look at the calendar. All right, what do you see, Ghani, in this calendar in terms of revenue opportunities?
We still have opportunity after 15th of August?
September. Okay, very good. Ghani sees an opportunity in the 15th onwards because those dates are still empty. Okay, fantastic. What is the runway until the 15th of September right now? If we want to start selling on the 15th of September, how many more days do we have before those dates start expiring?
19 days.
19 days, right? So our runway, and this is another vocabulary you want to know. A runway is how much time you have before it starts expiring. It's essentially the expiration date, like milk or flowers or sushi. It gives you an expiration date. So things with a closer expiration date are a bit more urgent to sell. Things with a longer expiration date can be a little bit more relaxed. It's like preserved food versus fresh food. Fresh food needs to be sold a little bit faster. So then, Risky, what other opportunities do you see in this calendar at this moment?
There's a gap night.
Right, there's some gap nights between 5th and 7th and 11th and 12th. Now this is where you have to understand the owner relationship. I believe Birdie as an owner does not want to sell gap nights. less than one night because he wants at least 2 night stays, as is the case in a lot of Bingham properties. Now, in guest houses, most of the time they don't give a fuck, right? They don't care at all. They're going to sell every night that they can, and the bookability of a gap night in a guest house is it higher or lower than the bookability of a gap night in a villa?
Higher.
Higher. Why?
Because we have one is cheaper and then one is like more people rooms.
One is cheaper. The second reason isn't correct. It's cheaper, and what's the second reason why it's easier to sell a gap night in a guest house? There's many rooms. Not quite. There's a more fundamental reason.
Cleaning.
Cleaning? No, it's not cleaning.
And last minute.
Last minute bookings happen a lot for guest houses. They happen much less often for villas. That's okay. That's reason 3. There's a reason 2 as well.
For group?
The opposite of that. It is much easier to find a group of 1 or 2 than a group of 4 or 6. And decisions made by 1 or 2 people are far more spontaneous than decisions made by 4 or 6 people. If we all need to find a place to stay, then it will be harder than if I need a place to stay, or me and her need a place to stay, or you and him need a place to stay, because we got to consider the group dynamic now. So in terms of liquidity, a guest room or guest house is far more liquid, it's far more easier to sell, because the majority of guests are 2 or less. Okay, so that also says something about that. All right, so then I need to look at a certain piece of data to understand how urgent is this gap night here, and how urgent is this big opportunity on the 15th and onwards in September. So the first thing I'm going to go to do is I'm going to go to BB Stats, and what I'd like to do is I'm going to look at the booking window. I'm going to look at the booking window to see how much time generally do people take to book something like Chahaya. So I can go over here to booking window. Now, when you guys work in Nusa Penida, it will be far easier because, or it should be easier, but this is important to check, right? So you can look, let's say, for example, at an area booking window, like let's say Binghamton. Sorry. So I can look at, let's say, an overall Binghamton booking window. But you can see that's kind of messy because it has a little bit of everything. It has villas, it has guest houses, so that's not so great. I can be more specific and I can go and look for Chahaya. Okay, and I see the median booking window at Chahaya is what?
67.
Right, it's about 60, it's 60 nights. All right, what does median mean? Risky. It's not the average. The middle. It's the middle. It means half the guests that have booked at Chahaya booked under 60 days, and the other half booked above 60 days. Okay? So basically, half the guests have booked if it's 60 days or less towards the runway. Okay? So our runway is what? What's our runway right now?
Chahaya, 60 days.
No, our runway to September 15th is not 60 days. That's our booking window.
19.
About 19 days, right? All right, so you can look at your probability of selling it. This person would have booked already, right? Because they booked. This person would have booked already because they booked 200 days in advance. This person would have booked already because they booked 160 days in advance. This person, every one of these persons above 60 would have booked already because their behavior is that they would have booked above 60 days. Now, these 2 people would have booked already. The only chances you have to sell are to a person like this, this, and this. So out of all the dots on the board, you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
Actually, not
people.
much difference. This is 9 here, this is 1 apartment. That's 10.
Right. No. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look, right? This is the booking window from June. Oh, actually, we can look a little bit further. We can look at, let's say, more historical data. We can go back a few years. So then this allows us to see what the booking window is, not within a constrained period of time, but within a larger period of time. So what we have done is we looked at not just check-ins from June 2019, right? But we looked at check-ins also back to, let's say, 2016. So this is based on more historical data. Okay, so If we look at more historical data, what do we see? We see that the median is a little bit lower now. Now it's 24 days. Okay, but once again, you can see that, all right, 24 days, I've got 19 days. Since that means 50% or more of the guests that would have booked, well, they've already booked, and they're not coming anymore. So really, all I'm targeting now is the people below this line, right? I'm targeting about those people who booked fairly last minute within 24 days. So this gives you a matter of urgency. So I know now, at the current price that I'm currently setting for Villa Chahaya, I have a 50% chance of selling it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because half the people have already booked. So I have less than half the existing market to work with. So then I need to make a decision. I need to go over here to Villa Chahaya, and I need to pick a price. So I go Chahaya. Okay, so I look at Chahaya, and I see what the rates are over here on Toki. And so I click here, and then I examine the rates. I examine the rates, and I take a look at what my September to October rates are. They're 2.24. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm actually going to sell at 2.24. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce a new rate. I'm going to introduce a new rate, and I'm going to call it the, let's see. Oh wow, I got a pretty big gap. It's from September 15th all the way to, I don't know. Let's wait for this to finish loading. We're waiting for a Toki to finish loading here, which is over on this side. Okay, all right. I have a gap from September 15th to the 25th. So let me go, and I'll set September 15th to the 25th. Okay, and this is default rate category, and I will set from September 15th until the 25th. Okay. All right. So then I'm currently at 2.2. This is where you have to define your markdown strategy. Generally, I like to do this. How many more rotation speed do I have until September 15th? I have about 3 more rotations today, the next week, and the week after, and then I'm getting pretty close. So I want to be able to mark down, not too drastically, but also within reason. So I'm going to start with, let's say this. I'm going to take 2.2, I'm going to multiply by 0.85. I'm going to start with maybe a 90%, okay? I'm going to give a 10% discount. So I'm going to start at 1.98. Now, I'm starting at 10% discount now, so that I still have 19 days. Now, as I get closer and closer, it becomes more urgent to sell. So that's my thing. I want to set a minimum of 2, and I know Chahaya has a maximum capacity of 7, right? 7? Okay. 7 or 6?
6.
Okay, let's say 6. I don't know if the extra bed is in play. All right, but I don't want to sell also too cheap to big groups, because if a big group comes in, I want them to pay also a bigger price. I know this. I know after peak season, the chances of large group travel also go down. So my demand for bigger villas during low seasons after August, which is apparently today, is diminished. But I don't want to miss out. If a big group does happen to book it, I don't want to sell a big villa for cheap. So then what I'll do is I'll compensate. I'll add another 150,000 for group sizes over 4. So in case a big group does come, then the price will float up back to the big group rate and not get stuck with this rate. All right, so I create that deal and I send it out. But once again, don't be an idiot, right? Definitely write that down and put it as your evidence, so that later on, should the owner come back and say, why did you do this? You can very clearly show them, well, I did this because of this. So I screenshot that, and I'm going to screenshot also this gap here, and then I'm also going to screenshot basically their median booking window here, right? So I have 3 pieces of evidence, and I can put these 3 pieces of evidence over on the card. Okay? And I attach this, and this allows me then to explain to any owner later why I did such as I did. And okay, there it is. I can upload those, and those go on. All right, is my job done yet? No. I want to also know another thing. I want to know, is this listing healthy? Is this property healthy? And what's the fastest way I can check that? To Wyana.
Booking base.
I check the booking pace. I check the booking pace, and what is the minimal booking pace I should get per week?
7.
7. No, not 7.
Formula?
For any room, for anything that's sold as a single unit, what is the healthy booking pace for that?
3.
3 or
5.
no, no, no,
Four?
no, no. It's 2 to 3 bookings a week. Why? Why is it 2 to 3 bookings a week?
So we will maintain the.
Yes, that's true. But what else will it maintain?
Booking base?
The booking pace maintains something else. It can't maintain itself.
Renting?
Yes, that was partly correct.
Revenue?
No, it maintains the occupancy. All right, every week you lose 7 nights. Am I right? If the villa is empty, you lose 7 nights. So ideally, you should fill 7 nights every week. Right? That's the perfect balance. If you fill 7 nights a week and you lose 7 nights a week, then you're at a healthy dynamic. If you lose 7 nights a week and you fill only 3 nights a week, then what happens? You're going to have 4 nights empty every week, right?
Yes.
So most people think of this as static, but time is always flowing. Think of it as an hourglass, right? The hourglass loses, let's say, a kilo of sand every hour. So ideally, you should put in another kilo of sand so that the hourglass stays full. Does everyone know what an hourglass is?
Yeah.
Okay. So if your hourglass loses sand at a kilo an hour and you only fill 1 kilo an hour, then your hourglass is going to be empty for half an hour, right?
Yes.
So ideally, you need that flow of new stuff in so that it keeps your flow going. What happens if you fill 2 kilos of sand an hour?
You have more time to play with?
No, you have sand flowing out of the hourglass, right? There's too much. There's too much flow, right? What happens if there's not enough?
Cepat habis.
Then the hourglass is empty. That's exactly the analogy to a property. So if you fill too quickly, if you get too many bookings and too many room nights sold, then you're overflowing. Then you're technically essentially overbooking. But in this case, you're not really overbooking because the calendar is blocked. But what you are doing is you're getting too many bookings and you're not getting the best price.
Yeah.
Because if you're getting too many bookings, you obviously could have asked for a higher price and you could have essentially got a higher paying customer to pay and lost maybe the customers that didn't want to pay the higher price.